As November 8th, 2016 approaches and yet another presidential election is upon us, I thought it very befitting to let my topic for today revolve around U.S. voting rights. All of those liberties that we as American citizens enjoy today, like for instance the right to vote, have not always been recognized as our rights. I hope that by the conclusion of this presentation and with the help of the National Voting Rights Museum and Institute in Selma, Alabama, to give you a glimpse of what many have fought so hard for. As we look forward to the future and we listen to the candidates of today, it becomes difficult to know what it is that they stand for. It's hard to understand all of the messages that are being sent to us, the American people. As one president prepares to leave office and another prepares to take office, we now look forward to the next chapter. But before we can get a clear understanding of where we're headed, let's take a look at where we've come from and how we got here. From 1776, when the Declaration of Independence was signed, the right to vote was given during the colonial and revolutionary periods and is restricted property owners, most of whom were white male Protestants over the age of 21. We progress forward to 1870 when Joseph Rainey was elected as our first black man to Congress. This made possible because of the 14th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, which was passed in 1868, granting former slaves citizenship. Citizenship is defined then and granted to former slaves. Voters, however, were explicitly defined as male. The fight for women's right to vote began as early as 1866, when two women's rights activists, Elizabeth Cady Stanton and Susan B. Anthony, formed an organization for white and black women and men dedicated to the goal of universal voting rights. Women marched and protested until finally achieving that right to vote in 1920, thanks to the passing of the 19th Amendment. 1924, Native Americans were given the right to vote, or at least gain citizenship, though not able to exercise those rights until 1947, following a lawsuit filed against New Mexico. It would appear that we as a nation were moving in the right direction. However, history teaches us better than that. By the 1960s, the fight for civil rights and liberties were reaching a boiling point unlike any other we've seen. 1965 marked the Voting Rights Act being passed, forbidding states from imposing discriminatory restrictions on who can vote, and provides mechanisms for the federal government to enforce its provisions. This legislation is passed largely under pressure from protests and marches earlier that year challenging Alabama officials who injured and killed people during African American voter registration efforts. I understand that this topic of voting rights is still a difficult and sometimes hurtful one to have. The issues of black and white have long since been viewed as taboo. However, this is not the purpose for this presentation. I find it important to know that not only is it our right to vote this Tuesday, it's our obligation. History has brought us here, but our future depends on the choices that we make today.